Welcome back. Today we'll look at Paper 2 Variant 22 of the October-November 2023 series. Question 1 says tick one box to complete the sentence. Verification is used to make sure that a value entered either what has not changed during input. So I think this one seems correct because you can think of, for example, a double entry check. Alright, so I'm going to sort of mark this as maybe, alright, because let's read the others, maybe they're better. B is an integer. So this is not verification, right? This would be validation, because the difference between validation is that, validation will check, the data type, the format, the length. So basically to check the data seems reasonable, but verification is used, to check the data is actually correct. So, to me, I would also think it could be this one. Although, I did actually check the mark scheme, and yeah, the mark scheme does say this. Although usually, verification, this is used to check the data is correct. Because if you think, say, like SMS verification, now you could enter a phone number, let's say something like this. Now, this can probably pass validation because you say, this is like, I don't know, 9 or 10 digits, whatever it is, they're all numbers, right? So this does look like a valid phone number, but, most likely this is not your real actual phone number. Right, so that's going to be the difference between, validation would say, this is valid, because again, the data type, the format, okay, the length, right, it all seems correct. But verification, this would fail, because, let's say the website or the app, it would then send a message, it would send like some kind of ID code, right, two-factor authentication code, to this phone number. But because this is not your phone number, of course, then you would never receive the verification code. And hence you wouldn't be able to verify that this is your real phone number. But yeah, I guess here really for this has not changed during input. They're just talking about double entry check. So 2, a type of validation check is length check. Another type of validation check is used to make sure that any date entered is in the right date, month, year style. So state this type of validation check. So this then will just be format check. Because what we're doing is we're checking that the first one should have 2 digits, right? Then there should be a slash, then another 2 digits, then a slash, and then 4 digits at the end. And of course you can also use a format for, say, email. Right now, maybe in email you want some sort of string of like alphanumeric characters. I don't know, maybe ABC 1 2 3. You can probably also have a dot in an email, probably a hyphen, probably an underscore. I'm not sure the exact list of valid characters. Then of course you're going to want the @ symbol somewhere, right? And then you'd want the domain name, and the domain name again. This can be I don't know, some more alphanumeric characters, right? Then you'd want a dot, and then you'd want the sort of domain extension. Although I guess actually an email doesn't technically need a dot because, you can have something like @localhost, right? That can also be an email. But here this would also be a format check, right? Just checking that you have like this sort of valid string, then the @ right, then another valid string. Give one example of normal test data and one example of abnormal test data you should use to make sure the check in part A is working properly. So let's say normal. Let's just choose like January the 1st, right? So let's say 0101, and let's just go 2024. Let's say this is a valid date. That should be accepted. Let's say should be accepted by the program. Then abnormal, let's think of something that's invalid. You could say 00, or you could say like 60. Let's say 6001, 2024. And let's just say, there aren't 60 days in January. January doesn't have 60 days. Right, so describe how a length check could be used with the date entered. So, you could do a length check over the whole thing. And if we think, that's going to be 2 2 4, so that's going to be yeah, that's going to be 8, right? But then we've also got these 2 slashes, okay, so it's going to be 10. So yeah, we could say, I know, yeah, we could, right, check the entire date string. Right, has a length of 10. Yeah, maybe 10 characters. Right, you know, or we can kind of be more specific. Right, let's say, yeah, or we could, or let's say check that, you know, well, DD is 2 characters. Right, so check that, yeah, let's see, the day and month are both 2 characters. Right, and the year is 4 characters. Okay, yeah, that seems fine. Right, so 4 pseudocode statements and 5 pseudocode uses are shown. Draw 1 line to link each pseudocode statement to the most appropriate pseudocode use. Right, not all pseudocode uses will be required. Right, so if we just read the well, let's read these on the right. So we've got counting, right, finding an average, totaling, using a conditional statement, and using a procedure. So if we look at the first one, well, call, right, so call means, well, calling a procedure. And note how if it's a function, okay, we don't use the call, because a function, well, let's call this C color, right, let's call this, you know, new color NC. Well, either we could just output, so we could go, you know, output color and then write this new color parameter, right, or alternatively, let me just erase that. You know, alternatively, we could do something like assign this to a variable. I mean, let's just say, I know, COL, right, so color is, and then, well, yeah, this, you know, color function, right, and then, yeah, this new color parameter. So again, you know, this thing, right, this identifier, well, this is going to be the procedure name, right, and then this one, this is going to be the parameter, because I know sometimes people get confused, like, what's a parameter, what's a function, what's a procedure. Right, so this one then, that's going to be, yeah, using a procedure. The next one, so, well, we've got some value and we're assigning it, yeah, A1 plus A2 plus A3 divided by 3. And of course here we see there's 3 values, right, then we divide by 3. So this will be finding an average. The next one, I mean, well, we've got some loop variable, right, then we just increment, right, so add 1 means increment. Now, if, for example, it was something like maybe array and then let's say index n, yeah, or maybe, you know, adding some input variable, right, then in that case we can say it's totaling, because it's kind of looping through the array, and it's kind of, you know, adding something to the total. And I mean, in that case you'd probably call this loop something like, you know, sum or total. But yeah, I think in this case it's just simple incrementing, right, so that will be counting. Right, then we say, well, if count is greater than 7, right, then we assign 0 into the variable x1. So that's just going to be, yeah, using a conditional statement. Right, the next one, a one-dimensional 1D array called temperatures has 25 elements beginning at index 1. It holds values that range between -20 and 100 inclusive. Right, so when it says inclusive, again, remember this means that, well, -20, you know, could be sort of valid, right, and also 100 could be valid. Now, if it said exclusive, well, exclusive means it's, yeah, I mean, how do we write that? I guess something like this. So in this case, where we say, you know, the value of x, right, or the temperature, right, that's going to be greater than or equal to 20, sorry, yeah, that's going to be greater than 20, right, and less than 100, right, whereas if we say inclusive, well, then it's going to be, yeah, yeah, greater than or equal to 20, yeah, and less than or equal to 100. Now, I mean, this is kind of like the mathematical way of writing it. I mean, this is not going to be valid pseudocode. Yeah, but I mean, just the valid, right, mathematical way. You know, with pseudocode, right, we would need to use an AND if we want to validate that. Right, so what we want to do, we want to write pseudocode algorithm to use a single loop to find the lowest value in this array and output the result only once. Okay, you do not need to declare or populate this array. Now, let me just go here to the Pseudocode website, and you can see here, right, on the exam questions, I've actually got the starter code here, right, this min temperatures. Right, I'm just going to open this in the code editor. And then, yeah, we can do it here and test it. Right, so finding the minimum, I mean, this is quite a common task that, ask us to do, right, min, max, average, total. So to find the min, well, let's just declare a variable, we'll call it min. And I've said that these are probably going to be reals, right, the temperature. And then what we want to do, well, we want to assign this minimum an initial value. Now, you could do something, and some people make this mistake, where they think, well, min, right, that's going to be small, therefore they assign it 999. But the problem with that is, well, then let's see, we compare the first one. So the first one is 27.69. Now, if we're checking, well, if this current temperature is less than this minimum, right, then we'll update the minimum with this current temperature. But in this case, that won't be true, right, because 999 will be smaller than this 27.69. So what we actually want to do is, well, we actually want to assign this min to a huge number. Now, again, this is not really the best because, I mean, I don't know, maybe, these temperatures aren't temperatures on Earth, but they could be temperatures, in some star or something, whereby, of course, yeah, you're talking like millions of degrees. So in that case, I mean, the best way to do it, to ensure that you always get the correct answer, is, well, if you just assign it to the first one. So let's just go here, temperatures, right, and then we just go index 1. Okay, now for the loop, what we can do is, because we've assigned, assigned this index 1, then we could actually start, the loop from 2. So let's go index, right, and then, let's start at 2 like this. Right, and then, let's just go to 25 because there's 25 elements. Then in order to check, if the current element is smaller than the minimum, right, what we do, let's go temperatures, this will then be index, and let's check if this is smaller than the minimum. Right, if it is, then we want to update the minimum, so we're going to assign this with the current temperature. Right, let's go end if, then we just go next index, and then here it just said output at the end. Right, so let's see if this works. Okay, so that says -18. I mean, I guess that's this one. I mean, let's just add another one at the end, or maybe let's change this -14. Let's just make this -19, okay, just to see if it works. And then, here we now get this -19. Alright, so I think this is working. And obviously you would write this on paper, but I won't write it again. Right, so an algorithm has been written in Pseudocode to allow the names of 50 cities and their countries to be entered and stored in a two-dimensional 2D array. The contents of the array are then output. Right, so let's go through this line by line because we want to identify 4 errors in the pseudocode and suggest corrections. Right, so the first one then, line 1, declare city. And I mean, like, technically I think here they should have a colon like this, but these small syntax errors, honestly I think that's just Cambridge maybe making that mistake. But I mean the rest seems correct, right? We've got 50 rows, okay, then we've got 2 columns. But if we look at this, well, here, we want cities, and where it says the names of cities and their countries, right? So of course this should be string. Now, alright, I mean, okay. I mean, alright, so let's kind of describe this. So let's say city array. Should be a string array. And then, I mean, I guess if we want to write this, so let's just go declare. And I mean, to be honest, it's basically going to be the same, right? So city, right, then let's go colon, let's go array. Right, so here then again, we're going to say 1, and then, 1 to 50, right? So 50 50 rows. Because, remember again, we go RC. Rows, then columns. Right, then we want to go 2 columns. Right, and then let's just say of string. Okay, that seems fine. Right, the next one, declare count integer. That seems okay. Declare out integer. I mean, that seems okay because, well, they're using this out as a for loop counter. Right, then they set count as being to 1. I mean, that seems okay. But then if we look at the next one, well, they go if. Right, but then here they go until count equals 50. So when we have until, well, this should be a, you know, repeat until. So that, right, let's say, yeah, if, right, let's say if on line 5, or yeah, 0, 5, should be repeat. Right, should, okay, yeah, should be, and then repeat. I mean, so I guess here, what we just go repeat. Right, the next one to output, yeah, enter the name of the city, that looks okay. Right, then we go input city, count, and then, so well, the row is count, but then the column is 2. And then if we look at the next one, enter the name of the country. Again, we've also got, well, yeah, the count, and then the column is also 2. So I think this one, well, this should be 1. So let's say, yeah, city name. Right, city name should be stored in column 1. Right, okay, yeah, should. Yeah, this graphics tablet is kind of broken. I probably need a new cover. It's got kind of all these air bubbles inside it. Right, city name should be stored in column 1. And then how do they write that? Right, so just input. Yeah, then make sure to use the square brackets for arrays. Sometimes I see people making this mistake. So functions and procedures, you know, you want to use these circle brackets, right, the parentheses. But when it's arrays, okay, you want to use the square brackets. Right, error 4. So yeah, I mean, this seems okay, right? The count plus 1, incrementing, that seems okay. Right, so let's look at the for loop. So for out is 1, right, and then 2, 1. Well, this here, what this should be 50. Alright, so let's say, yeah, I mean, alright, well, okay, let's say for loop, right, just to be specific between, you know, the for loop and the repeat until loop. Let's say for loop should loop 50 times. Right, and then to correct that, so that's going to be for, right, then I think they called it out. Right, we're going to assign that 1, and let's just go 250. Yeah. Yeah, okay, alright, that seems fine. And I guess here they actually do use a big O for out. For the next question, it says, describe the changes you should make to the corrected algorithm to allow the name of a country to be input and to display only the stored cities from that country. Right, it says you do not need to rewrite the algorithm. So this one, I mean, I actually did this a little bit wrong because I kind of wrote out the whole, well, I didn't write the algorithm, but, you know, I wrote out the whole steps. But what they actually want you to do in the mark scheme is, well, they want you to take this algorithm that we've got here. Okay, right, here it is. Yeah, they want you to take, you know, this algorithm we've got here and then just say how you would modify this. So first then we would just need to input the, well, yeah, input the country name we're searching for. And I mean, if we look here, well, these lines 5 to 11, well, these are the ones that are actually, you know, well, that's when the user is inputting the, you know, the sort of valid data. So we actually need to do it after that, right, after the array has been populated. So in that case, we would want to say here, right, between these lines 11 and 12, this is where we want to ask them to input. So yeah, let's just go ahead and write that. Right now, I'm just going to, yeah, because I think it's easier to type. Right, so let's say, yeah, between lines 11 and 12. Right, and let's say, well, we'll output a message. Right, asking the user to enter a country name. Right, and well, and then we say, yeah, and we would input that into a variable. Right, yeah, into a variable we have declared. Right, and then let's just say, yeah, called country name or something. Right, and then, well, let's think what we need to do after that. Right, here we're looping through, that's fine. So then inside the loop we would then want an if statement. So we can then say, yeah, I guess let's say inside the loop. Alright, so inside the, or let's say inside the for loop. And I think they do want us to specify the number, the line numbers. So let's say right lines 12 to 14. Right, yeah, we would, let's say we would add an if condition. Right, checking if the, well, let's say if the second column, right in the city array. Yeah, okay, I mean or we could, okay, yeah, I mean, let's write it. So right, if the second column, right, of the current row in the city array, right, is equal to the country name that they've entered. Right, then what we want to do, well, right, then that's when we have the output statement. Right, yeah, then we would output this country, or yeah, we would output this city. And then let's put in brackets, right, yeah, by moving the output statement, right, by moving the output statement on line 13 inside this if condition, or yeah, inside this if statement. Yeah, okay, and then, I mean, I think, I mean, that's all we need to modify. And, you know, we don't really need to explain, you know, we should loop 50 times, because, I mean, they're already doing that, right, with the corrected algorithm. Likewise, we don't really need to say we need to increment, you know, the sort of out variable, because, again, you know, they're already doing that. So in terms of all the changes, you know, I think that should be okay. We want to explain how variables and constants should be used when creating and running a program. Right, okay, so let's try and write this again. So what we want to say then, well, variables will be used for data that changes, whereas constants are used for, well, things that are constant that don't change. Right, okay, hang on. Right, okay, let's say, right, yeah, so variables should be used for data that, or yeah, maybe to store data, right, to store data, right, using a meaningful, or okay, let's say to store data that can change. Right, using a meaningful identifier. I mean, let's give an example. I know maybe, yeah, for example, let's say player health, right, in a game. Yeah, right, so let's say in contrast, right, constants can be used, or yeah, maybe constants should be used to store data that wouldn't change. And then we can think of something, so let's say, yeah, for example, I mean, maybe gravity, let's say the gravitational constant, yeah, I mean, or you could say pi. Yeah, so let's say, right, the gravitational constant in a game, and, you know, maybe we can put in brackets what that's sort of, yeah, 9.81 or something, you know, or minus 9.81. Let's also say that with a variable we need to declare the data type, whereas with a constant we don't because it's inferred. So let's say, right, also, yeah, when declaring data, right, when declaring variables, we need to specify the data type. Yeah, while for constants we don't. Right, since it's inferred. I mean, I think hopefully that's enough, but I mean, yeah, what really is, right, explain how they can be used. So I think we probably don't really need to talk about the advantages, although yes, sometimes talking about these, you know, tangential issues, they do actually give us the marks for these. So I mean, let's just say, well, the advantage is that, you know, variables and constants, they keep our code organized, they make it easier to understand, you know, with sort of, yeah, let's say with, you know, sort of useful identifier names. Right, so the advantage, let's say the advantages of variables and constants, right, yeah, are that, I mean, or let's say are that they make the code, yeah, easier to understand, right, due to meaningful identifier names. Yeah, I mean, you could say sort of easier to read, right, easier to understand. You know, also, or let's say, you know, easier to update, because, for example, we only have to change, you know, the variable in one place, whereas if we'd like hard coded a value like 50 times, well, then of course we need to go through and change it in all of those 50 places. Right, so let's say easier to update, right, since we only have to modify in one place. Alright, so yeah, I mean, I think that should definitely be enough for 3 marks. Although sometimes Cambridge are weird in terms of, you know, what they actually require to get those 3 marks. Right, the next one, so the flowchart represents an algorithm that performs a process on groups of values that are input. The algorithm will fail if the first value of any group is 0. Right, an input of -1 will terminate the algorithm. Okay, so I think with these, I mean, often it's good to try and read through it first, maybe try to get a sort of basic understanding of what it's doing. So we've got some total which they assign to 0, then count they also assign to 0. Right, then we input a value, and well, so if the value equals 0, well, if it is, right, so here they said this is when it's ending. So yeah, here then this is where they calculate the, you know, the final, well, they do the total divided by count. Right, so calculate the final average, output the average. Output the total and the average. Okay, and then, right, so if it's not, well, if the value is -1, then we stop. But then, right, if it's not -1, well, then we just add this value to the total, right, and we also increment the count. So, I mean, basically we can see, well, this is just going to be, you know, calculating the average and total. Right, but then in order to actually do this, yeah, so I think maybe what I might do, I might open this on 2 screens, or just, okay, hang on. Yeah, I might have this split screen just so I can actually, yeah, just so I can see the flowchart, right, as I'm actually working. Yeah, and I think that's going to make it easier, right, to understand. Yeah, both for me, right, and for, you know, people watching the video. Right, so here then, complete the trace table 25. Right, so first then we're just going to assign total and count to 0. So let's just, okay, yeah, let's make sure to select the pen. Right, so that's going to be 0. And then I think when we enter a loop, you know, usually they start a new line. So let's do that. Right, the value is 25. Right, so the value is not 0. The value is also not 1. Okay, so then we're just going to add this to the total. So the total now becomes 25, right, and the count then becomes 1. The next one's going to be 35. And I mean, well, hopefully we can see it's going to do the same, right? So now the total is going to be 60, the count is going to be 2. Right, then we get 3, so it's going to be 63. Yeah, and this is going to be 3. Right, then we get a 0. So yeah, let's check what happens here. Right, if the value is 0, well, right, then we, okay, yeah, so then we, right, calculate the average. Right, so then we want to think, well, 63 divided by 3, right, that's going to be 21. Okay, yeah, I mean, alright, so let's think then, well, first we just want to output this total, and I guess we can do this over 2 lines, because, I mean, it's not going to fit on 1 line. So let's just go, right, total. Right, so total is, and actually, alright, let's actually, yeah, not have that. Right, so here it should say, yeah, total is 63. Right, the next one, let's have this on a new line. Then let's just go average is, and that's going to be 21. Right, and so then it actually goes back. Right, then we assign the total and count to be 0. So yeah, let's do this on a new line probably. Right, let's go 0, 0. And yeah, okay, so, right, so here there's going to be a lot. Right, next one is 50, right, 57. Right, so of course the total is going to be 57, the count is going to be 1. The next one is 20, so that's going to be 77. Right, then we get 25. So what's that going to be? 82, I think 102. Yeah, then we get a 3. Right, then we get 18. Right, so that's going to be 120, and this is going to be 4. Right, okay, then we get 0. So again, if we get a 0, well, yeah, then again we want to calculate the average. So the average for this, 120 divided by 4 should just be 30. And you know, this one you can probably tell, because let's say if we had 121, I mean, maybe they would want us to calculate, you know, that's going to be, 30.25. But I think the fact that we get these nice whole numbers, I mean, yeah, hopefully that means, you know, we've done it correct and we've not made a silly little mistake. Right, so, I mean, I'm just going to do the same thing. So, I mean, let's go, well, total is, and then that's going to be, 120. Of course, in the exam, you would want to write out, you know, total is again. And then the next one, it's going to be average is, and that's going to be 30. But yeah, I'll just do this just to save, you know, save time. Again, right, then this goes back to 0 again. Right, so, yeah, I mean, alright, yeah, I think that's fine. Right, and well, then we just want to input -1. So -1 is going to be input. And then if we look, well, is value 0? Okay, so yeah, right, this is going to be false. But then here, is value equal to -1? Right, that's going to be yes. So in this case, then we just stop. Right, and yeah, I think that seems correct. I mean, again, hopefully there's no silly mistake. Right, so the purpose of this algorithm, well, we don't just want to say it's to calculate the total and the average, because, I mean, if you look, right, it actually does this, you know, 2 times. So we can say, well, it's going to calculate the total and average, you know, of all the numbers entered, right, until someone enters a 0. So it's basically calculating the, you know, total and average of groups of numbers. So let's just say that, let's say, yeah, you know, we can say, well, right, calculate and output, right, the, yeah, total, right, the total and average, hang on. Right, of groups of numbers. Yeah, okay, I mean, or we could say of all, yeah, maybe all numbers entered. Right, let's say groups of numbers. Right, entered. Right, yeah, until. Right, until, I don't know, yeah, until the user enters a 0. Or let's say, yeah, until the user. Right, user enters a 0. Okay, right, so the next one, the string operation substring. Right, and then this same, well, it takes a quote, well, so, yeah, quote, okay, right, then the next parameter is going to be start, the next, third parameter is number. Right, returns a string from, quote, beginning at the start position, that is number of characters long. Right, the first character in quote is position 1. So what we want to do, well, we want to write pseudocode statements to store the string, right, learning never exhausts the mind, in quote, then extract and display the words the mind from the string, and output the original string in lowercase. Alright, so I mean, I could write this here, but let's demonstrate on the website, yeah, just to actually, you know, prove that this works. Well, yeah, just to kind of see it working in action. Right, so, I mean, yeah, I mean, let's just declare this. Now, in the exam, maybe you don't need to declare, but I think it's, you know, it's good practice just to do it anyway. Right, so you say that's quote, and that's going to be of type string. Then we want to assign this quote, you know, into this quote variable. So let's go quote. Right, then we go assign, and then yeah, just paste that. Right, then, I mean, do we just want to output? Yeah, so extract and display. Right, okay, then we want to output the original string in lowercase. Right, so if we just want to output then, and we want to output, well, this, yeah, the mind. So basically we just have to count how many characters until this T. And, you know, this is actually a bit tricky because, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of characters, you know, it's quite easy to make a silly little mistake. Right, so this L, this is character 1, right, E is 2, yeah, 8, right, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, hang on, let me start again because it kind of confused me as I was doing that. Alright, so yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, alright, so I think, yeah, this T then is going to be character 25, right, and you do have to actually count the spaces as well, because, yeah, the space is a valid character. So let's go substring, and what we want to do, so like it says, right, this takes, well, the string as the first parameter. Right, so here then, this is the start position. So the start position is 25. And then we want to think, well, how many characters is, this, the mind? And hopefully here we can see this is 8 characters, right? Because, well, that is 3, then we've got a space, then we've got 4 characters. Yeah, so let's just run this, see if it works. And yeah, okay, this works. Now, then it said we also want to output this quote, but in lowercase. So for IGCSE, there's 2, right? I mean, UCase is going to be, well, uppercase, and that can be used for both characters and strings. Right, but then for lowercase, well, we're just going to go LCASE, and let's go quote. And yeah, okay, so you see this works. Right, so explain why a program would use procedures and parameters when writing a program. Okay, so I mean, we can say, well, a procedure is, I mean, that's going to be a group of code that doesn't return a function. That doesn't return a value. So I don't know, one example, maybe you just want to like display some message, a given number of times. Because in that case you would just output something, right, but you're not returning anything. Or it could be some file operation, maybe you want to write some data to a file, or you want to, I don't know, do some processing on a file, right, something like that. So let's just try and write that. So let's say, right, procedures maybe are used, right, when a programmer, right, wants to group code together, into a, let's say, sort of common, maybe reusable module. Let's say, right, that doesn't return a value. Or let's say parameters can be used to sort of, basically sort of, modify the behavior of the procedure. Because let's say if we have a procedure that just outputs a greeting, right, so it just says, hello, and then the name that they supply as the parameter. Now, if they supply a different name, of course it's going to say hello, and then the new name. So yeah, let's say parameters can be used, right, to modify the behavior, let's say, of each call, right, each call of the procedure. And then we could give an example. Like for example, if we just say output, I don't know, maybe just outputting a different message each time. I don't know, let's say like processing a different file, right, etc. Right, so, well, let's talk about the advantages, because, that's mostly what this question is about. Right, so the advantages, and let's try to think of, 3 or 4. 1, it's going to keep the code more organized. Right, 2, you can say if you want to make changes, and right, these could be adaptive changes, so, the feature changes. It could be corrective changes, or corrective maintenance. And corrective maintenance, this means, if there's a bug, right, you need to correct it, you need to fix it. Right, and then also, perfective maintenance. That's going to be, if you just want to improve the performance. Maybe make it faster, use less memory, right, something like that. I think, the other thing you say is also going to shorten the main code, because otherwise, if you're copying and pasting, huge lines of code each time, right, then of course the code's going to get, extremely long, extremely messy, it's, difficult to understand. Whereas if you, if you sort of embed that code inside a procedure, then of course, then you're just going, call and then the procedure name, right? So it's literally one line, as opposed to maybe 100 lines of the actual procedure code. So yeah, let's try and write that. So the advantages is that it keeps the code organized. Is that it, let's say it helps to keep the code organized. Maybe organized into logical sections. Let's say, logical subroutines. Right, so it helps to keep the code organized in logical subroutines. Let's say, right, also sort of keeps the main, I don't know, keeps the main program shorter or something. Right, let's say, hence easier to understand. Or and then let's say right, yeah, and also makes modifications slash changes easy, or yeah, modifications slash fixes easier. Right, fix is easier, and well, let's explain that. And again, here it does say explain. Right, because we only have to change the code in one place. Yeah, okay. I mean, we could also mention about testing, because then you can do, for example, unit testing, where you just test like each of the functions and procedures individually. So let's say that, yeah, breaking the code into procedures, right, let's say it also makes testing and debugging easier. Right, since we can test, yeah, each procedure individually. And then, yeah, let's just say unit testing. Alright, so I think, yeah, that's fine. Right, the next one, consider the logic expression, right, so A NAND B, right, or, yeah, okay, or not B XOR C. Right, so yeah, this is a bit complex with the NAND and the XOR. Right, so each logic gate must have a maximum of 2 inputs, and do not simplify this logic expression. Right, okay, so let's think then, so right, what, A NAND B. Now, yeah, let me just try and draw this kind of, not too messily, basically. I mean, well, AND is just going to be this D, right? So if we want a NAND, well, a NAND we just have, right, the D and then the, the circle. Right, so then we want this OR, but yeah, this OR is going to be at the end. So maybe let's do that later. Let's just kind of, yeah, draw it like this. Right, so then we want to go, right, okay, so here then we want to do B XOR C, and then, right, we would not that afterwards. Right, so if you remember then, yeah, XOR, I mean, it's just going to be the OR, but with the, yeah, with this extra line. Right, so that does this one, yeah, B XOR C, but then we want to not that. So let's just not that like this. And then we just want to OR these together. Alright, and yeah, I mean, maybe that's a bit too pointy, right, something like that probably. But I would say I'm also not the best at drawing, right, I'm not the most artistic, but some people, they do an AND gate, say like this, and then, they do a, let's say they do an OR gate, something like, I mean, yeah, maybe not that. I don't know, maybe they do an OR gate like this. But, I mean, if you look at this AND gate, and then if you look at this OR gate, I mean, they look quite similar. So the examiner might think, I mean, like, yeah, what is this, right? Is this an OR? Is this an AND? So that's what I would say, probably try and exaggerate it. Yeah, just by making it kind of, quite pointy, basically. I mean, some people, right, I do actually see some people where they actually label it, and that's also fine. So you can say, right, that's, yeah, that's a NAND, right, this is an XOR, right, yeah, this is a NOT, and then this is an OR. Yeah, just to make it, explicit to the examiner. Right, then we want to complete the truth table, so let's just try and write these then. And I mean, like, maybe you just know NAND in your head, but you could actually break that NAND down into an AND, then a NOT. Okay, so I think that's what I'll do. So I'm going to go, right, A and B. Right, and then, well, yeah, then let's just NAND that, so let's go, right, A NAND B. Right, then what we want to do B XOR C. Right, then, well, then, yeah, let's just not that. So I'm just going to say, I mean, not, or let's say, yeah, B. Right, here I'm just going to do these sort of mathematical symbols. Right, so let's go B, and then the XOR, I mean, the symbol for XOR is just the plus with the circle. And then just the bar, right, the bar just means not. And then, yeah, I guess then we just need the OR at the end, right, which is going to be this Z. Okay, so let's try and do this. Let me just zoom in. Alright, maybe not that much. Okay. Right, so the first one then, A and B, and again, what I like to do is I just like to look at where it's, where they're both ones. So here, while they're both ones, they're both ones. So here, well, let's go 1 and 1, right, then everything else is just going to be 0. Now, if we then want to NAND this, well, what we're doing is we're then just knotting this, right? So yeah, this becomes 1, right? Yeah, all those zeros become a 1, and then the ones become 0. Right, then if we go B, X, or C, so X or where they're different, then it becomes a 1. So we can look here, right, okay, here they're different, here they're different, here they're different, and here they're different. So let's just go, right, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then yeah, everything else is going to be a 0. Right, then we just want to knot this, so again, right, this 0 becomes 1, alright, 0, 0. Right then for Z, right, well then we want to do, so this one here, right, and then just OR this. So let's think, well here, right, 1 or 1, that's going to be 1, 1 or 0, that's going to be 1, 1 or 0, 1, yeah, 1, 1. Right, that's going to be a 0, and then yeah, that's going to be a 1. Okay, so I guess yeah, probably that's true, right, they're all 1s, and then yeah, only, well, this one here is the only 0. And I mean, I will just check this, so yeah, does that seem okay? So I mean, if we think, well, NAND, and you know, you can kind of think of this, I mean, if we have AND, well, AND is going to be mostly false, right, because let's say the inputs, AND is going to be like this. Yeah, because I mean, only when it's 1, 1 is it going to be true. So if we have NAND, well, then it's the opposite. So that means, well, this is going to be mostly true, right? You know, let's say here, right, 75% of these will be true. And of course, then when we OR, well, I mean, automatically that means 75% will be true, because, you know, that just comes from this. And then, you know, any that are also true in this case, well, that's just going to make, you know, these true here as well. So the fact we do get basically all 1s, right, that does seem like it's probably correct. Yeah, although sometimes, you know, maybe I would be skeptical, like if, you know, I mean, I don't know, like let's say if you got 100% 1s, you know, maybe that might be wrong. Right, database called horses, well, a database table called horses stores details about horses kept at a horse sanctuary. Right, so we've got a code, breed, origin, gender, age, and arrived, okay. Right, the number of records. Right, now, so, I mean, if we think the record, this just means the row. Okay, and I mean, technically the word they also use is tuple, right? So tuple or record, that means row. You know, some people might think, oh, okay, look here, there's just 37. But if we look, some of them have been deleted, right? There's no 1, there's no 3, yeah, there's no 5. So basically, you just have to count them. Right, so let's go, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right, 11, 12. Okay, so I think that should be 18. And I would say I'm just going to double check this just to make sure I've not made a mistake. Yeah, okay, so I think that's 18. Right, give the name in the field that is most suitable to be the primary key. So that's going to be this one, right, this code, because if we look, they're all unique. Or let's say, yeah, well, let's say, right, this, or maybe this field, right, can uniquely identify each tuple, or yeah, each record. Right, uniquely, yeah, identify. And I think here, I mean, because they've called it record here, well, let's also call it record here. Right, uniquely identify each record. Okay. Right, the database only allows the data types, right, boolean, character, date, time, integer, real text. Right, okay, so choose the data type. So let's look at breed. I mean, yeah, what is that? I think that's text. Yeah, okay, so right, breed we can say is text, right, because that's just going to be a string. And yeah, note that in databases, I mean, well, in SQL, they don't have a data type called string. Right, that's going to be text. Right, gender, I mean, yeah, what do they have here? Right, so if they just have M and F, I mean, we can just say, you know, char, right, character. Now, I mean, gender, you know, people do ask about this a lot. Like, you could also have gender as being, you know, well, boolean, right, true or false. Of course, yeah, people joke, well, like, are there like 50 genders or something? But like, if you're just assuming, let's imagine you have something called is male. Well, of course, is male can either be true or false. Obviously true, well, they're a male, right? False, they're a female. But yeah, I know a lot of people have been asking, like, what about like third genders and all this kind of stuff. So I guess then you can say character, right? That's fine. Right, so age, let's have a look. Right, so age, well, that's just going to be integer. Right, then arrived, well, that's just going to be date. Right, so yeah, hopefully not too difficult. Right, so complete the structured query language SQL to return the code and breed of all the horses whose breed originated in Scotland. Right, so SQL, we just want to go select. Because while we say select, right, then we want to say the columns, or well, the fields we're selecting. So here, right, only the code and breed. Yeah, so I think we don't need anything else here. And it is a bit strange because you don't really need this like trailing comma like that. Right then, from, well, this is the table. So I think the table, it's called horses, and probably that's going to be a probably that's going to be a big H. Yeah, okay, so big H. Although I think actually SQL is case insensitive. At least MySQL I think is case insensitive. So I think, yeah, big H or small h would work. But yeah, of course, keep it the same as the question. Right, then we want to say, and I think this one is what, breed origin. I think that was the name of this field. It says a wood flooring company stores the names of up to 100 customers in a one-dimensional or 1D array. Right, this then, well, that's called customers. Right, there's also a two-dimensional array called quotations, and this will store the details of each customer's quote. And that's going to have the 5 bits of information. So length for room will be to 1 decimal place, the width for the room also to 1 decimal place. Right, the area of wood required, this is rounded up to the next whole number. Right, there's also the choice of wood index, which will be a whole number. And then there's also the piece of wood required in dollars, which will be rounded to 2 decimal places. Right, then it says the floor measurements, so the length and the width, are taken in meters. And all floors, well, okay, rectangles and room measurements must be between 1.5 and 10 meters. Right, and that's going to be inclusive. Okay, so this means that 1.5 is allowed, right, also 10 is allowed. Now, if it said exclusive, then that would have to be greater than 1.5 and less than 10. Yeah, whereas inclusive is going to be, greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. Okay, then it says the index of any customer's data is the same as both arrays. For example, a customer named in index 4 of customers corresponds to the data index 4 of quotations. And this is what they often do. They say the index is the same. Right, then it just gives us the 3 different wood choices, also the price. And it says the data is stored in the 2 1D arrays wood type and price. The index of the wood type and price, again, so it's just saying the same, right? Laminate is obviously 29, right? Pine is going to be 39.99. Right, so the requirements. We want to create a program where we can input a new customer's name, the room length and the room width. Then we want to check that each measurement is valid, so just a range check. Then we want to output an appropriate error message and require the measurement to be re-entered until it's valid. Right, we can also calculate the area of the room, by multiplying the length and the width. Right, we input the choice of wood and find its price per square meter. So I think here, we could ask them to type the name, but we could also just give them a menu, right, 1, 2, 3, and just use this index. Then we want to calculate the price of wood needed, so I guess just the area multiplied by the price per square meter. Okay, then we store all the data in the relevant array. So I think that's going to be this quotations here. Alright, we just need to update these values for the specific customer number, or maybe the quote number. Then we just want to output the customer's quotation, and I guess just include the customer name, the choice of wood, and the price of the wood required. And then this means it needs to be in a loop because we want to continue to accept the next customer. Alright, and I think here it says 100 customers. Okay, so what it says, yeah, use pseudocode or program code, also add comments. Now, I think the comments I'll add at the end, because often it's kind of quite difficult to add the comments as you're going. You know, maybe you make a mistake, you have to kind of delete something. So I think, yeah, if you just write your program, you know, make sure it sort of seems to, you know, probably seems to work, or yeah, make sure the logic is correct, and then you can add the comments at the end. It also says you do not need to declare any arrays or variables, and you may assume that this has been done already. Now, when it says this, because you know some people get confused, I mean this just means the variables they mentioned. So, for example, customers has already been declared. I guess, yeah, quotations, right? That's already been declared. However, it does explicitly tell us that we do need to initialize the would type and also price arrays. And then, yeah, I guess, yeah, inputs and output must contain suitable messages. So I think before we start this, I mean, let's just go here in WPS. So, I mean, this here is going to be the quotations array, all right? It's going to be a 2D array. And as we see, we've got 100 customers, right, or 100 quotes. And then basically here, we've just got, kind of 5, I guess these are going to be real numbers. Alright, so yeah, just make sure you're familiar with this layout. Again, we've got 100 rows, okay, and then 5 columns. And yeah, that's going to be how we're going to do it. Alright, so if I just look back here, I mean, I guess really we can probably do this loop first, right? Because yeah, I mean, the loop kind of needs to go first, and you know, everything else would go inside that loop. And I guess we can also, yeah, declare the would type and the price as well. Sorry, not declare, okay, just assign, yeah, well, initialize the values. Or assign them the values. And in fact, let me just copy this, because otherwise it's kind of annoying having to flick back and forward. Alright, there we go. Okay, and yeah, let's just comment this. Right, so the first one then, let's go would type. And yeah, let me just reset that. Okay, hopefully that will add to the auto suggestions. Okay, there we go. Right, so the would type 1, and that's going to be laminate, I guess. Right, and then let's just go would type 2. Okay, this is going to be pine. And yeah, let me just increase the font size. Right, then let's go wood type 3, and this is going to be oak. Okay, and then likewise we can also do this for price. So price 1 is going to be 29.9. Price 2 is going to be 39.9. But I guess, yeah, 0.99. And then, right, price 3. Okay, this is just going to be 54.99. Alright, so I mean, let's test that works. Yeah, okay, no errors. Right, that seems to be fine. So I think the next thing we can do, and I'm also going to leave myself some space here, you know, just to declare some variables. And I think this is always a good idea. Okay, leave yourself some space at the top, you know, for when you're writing this. So let's say we just want to go repeat. And, you know, we could have a menu. I mean, I think it tells us we don't need a menu. Because I think what they do in the mark scheme is, well, they basically just loop until the customer number equals 100. So we can actually have a integer variable. Let's call it customer number. Right, that's going to be integer. And then maybe I'll just assign it after these. Let's go here, customer number, and that's going to be 0. And then basically, you know, again, we can give ourselves lots of space, right? Although probably just write this at the end. And we're then going to want to repeat this until the customer number is, well, let's say equal to 100. And, you know, we can also go greater than or equal to 100. It is also going to be the same. Yeah, or in fact, okay, actually, I think let's go greater than 100. Because, for example, if we do customer number and then assign customer number plus 1, well, here it will get to 100, right? But then we're going to want to loop back, you know, to kind of, let's say, to get the 100th customer's details. So yeah, we're going to stop when it's greater than 100. Okay. And then, all right, let's just go back to see what the next requirement is. Right, so we want to ask for the customer's name, right, the room length and room width. And then I guess we just want to, yeah, validate the length and the width. Okay. Right, so let's say here, again, let's go declare, and this will be customer name. Okay, and then, well, the name is obviously going to be a string.
So what we can do, let's go output, yeah, maybe enter, yeah, I know, like enter your name or enter customer's name or something. Right, then we're just going to input, and that's going to be input into the customer name. Now the next one, I mean, we could use a while loop. However, I think it's kind of easier just to use a repeat until, because again, repeat until we're checking the condition after they've entered the input, which I think is going to be a little bit easier. And yeah, let's think here. So let's go declare. Maybe we'll say room width. Let's also go room length. And I think these, okay, sorry, these are going to be reals, because remember it says it can be 1.5. All right, so yeah, that's going to be a real number. And then what we can do, let's just go repeat. And then let's just go output. Let's say enter room width. Or I mean, yeah, I don't know, maybe let's go the length first, because I think that is first in the, yeah, I think they say, yeah, so length is going to be kind of the first index in the array. Right, and then here we're just going to get input, and this is going to be, I think, room length. Right, and then I'm just going to copy this just to make it a little bit faster. Right, let's change this to width. Let's also go room width, okay, just like that. And then here we're just going to want to go until, and let's say, yeah, so we want to go until what the room length is greater than or equal to 1.5, right, and room length is less than or equal to 10. And I mean this, if we want, you know, we could put this in brackets. However, in this case, because they're all and, you know, we actually don't need to. Although, yeah, I'm going to do it just to kind of separate the room length and the room width. Okay, let's go room width. That's going to be greater than or equal to 1.5. And then also the room width. And let me just move this across. Maybe make the font a bit smaller. And here the room width is going to be what, less than or equal to 10. Yeah, so I think that should be okay. I mean, maybe let's go here, enter customer, and then we'll just say, you know, customer one's name, just so we can actually see, you know, which customer number is on, right? Just to make it easier for us. So this will be customer number, and then let's just go like this. Yeah, enter customer, well, one's name, and I mean, I guess here we can start this at 1 if we want, and then let's say here we can just increment at the end. So if we go customer number, and then we'll just go customer number, and then, well, +1. All right, so this should just increment like this. And I mean, let's test that, see if it works. So let's say name, I don't know, maybe Fred. Okay, let's say the room length can be 0. All right, the room width maybe 20. And yeah, you see here, it's, well, basically it's asking us again. So this time, I mean, let's say 1.5, and here we'll just say 10. And yeah, okay, you see that's successful because now it's asking for customer 2. Okay, so I think that's fine. Right, and then what do we have to do next? Okay, so we want to output an error message. Yeah, and require. Okay, so I mean, I guess here we can just kind of copy this, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, all right. So for example, if we just go here, and then it's kind of a little bit annoying having to copy this. Right, and then I mean, we can just kind of reverse this if we want. So we can go, if room length is less than 1.5, right, or if room length is, yeah, greater than 10, and again, yeah, just or less than 1.5. All right, and then we can go or, yeah, greater than 10. And then let's just say, hang on. And I mean, maybe here we can just go like 1.5 to 10 meters, all right, just to give them a kind of prompt. Okay, and then here, let's say, yeah, error, you know, both the room length and width should be in range, yeah, 1.5 meters to 10 meters. right? So I think that should be fine. And now, yeah, if we look at the next requirement, okay, so we want to calculate the area. Right, then we want to input the choice of wood and find its price per square meter. Okay. Yeah, I mean, here it doesn't say we need to validate this. So I guess, yeah, although to be honest, I mean, let's probably validate it as well. Because otherwise, if they enter index 4, right, it's going to, cause problems. Right, so let's say here then we also want the area. And then if we think, well, the area is just going to be the length multiplied by the width. Right, okay. And then let's go here, let's go repeat. And I mean, just like we've done before, here we're just going to ask them to enter the wood, kind of the wood index basically. So I think here maybe we can just give them a nice menu. We'll say, like choose wood type. And let's go, again, I'm just going to use this new line just to output them on a new line. However, in the exam, if you want, you can just go like this. Maybe 1 can be laminate, 2 is going to be pine, right? 3 is going to be oak. And let's just move this down a bit. However, I'm going to do it here just because, again, the way the website works, it's only going to output the most recent message, in the input prompt. Right, so this one's going to be laminate. Then let's go new line, and we'll go 2, that's going to be pine, and then new line, I think 3 is going to be oak. And let's go input. And here we can just go maybe wood choice or something. Right, that's going to be integer. Let's go wood choice. Right, and then, here we're just going to keep inputting. Right, until the wood choice is greater than or equal to 1. Right, and the wood choice, and let's make that capitals. Right, and the wood choice is going to be less than or equal to 3. All right, so that should be valid. And then what do we need to do next? Right, okay, so then we want to get its price per square meter. Right, do we need to store that? No, okay. Right, okay. So I think now I'm just going to copy this because, again, otherwise I'm going to have to keep flicking back to remember which index to store things in. Right, so I think, now basically we can kind of start storing things in the array. So here it's called quotations, right? And we can also store the customer as well, right, in the customers array. So let's go customer, customers, right, and then this will be customer number, right, because if you think here we start at customer number 1, so obviously here we're just going to assign, we're going to assign their name. And then when we've done that, then it's going to go to customer number 2, for the next iteration. So here I think we can just go customer name. Right, quotations, this is also going to be customer number. So this is the first index, and then the second index is going to be 1. And then like we see here, right, this one is just going to be the length of the room, and we just need to round it to 1 decimal place. So I think this is room length, and here the second parameter is just going to be 1. Right, I'm just going to copy this because the next one is quite similar. So right here, this is going to be index 2, and then here it's just going to be the room width. Right, then we want the area required. And I mean, honestly, like, we don't really need this variable. We could just calculate it directly. But I think, all right, let's use it because we will need the area to calculate the total price as well. And in fact, sorry, I realised I've just done it here. Done it here already. So let's just copy that. Right, so this one is a bit different. It says rounded up to the next whole number. So in order to round it to a whole number, we do this. But the problem with this is, let's say we have 0.1 or 1.1. Right, that's going to round it down. So the way they actually say we can do this is if we just go plus 0.5. Because, for example, if we think about this, let's say we've got, if we've just got 0, right? So obviously 0 rounding down is just going to be to 0. But then if we do 0 plus 0.5, well, that's going to equal 0.5, obviously. And 0.5 is just going to round up to 1. Likewise, if we think, so if we think, I don't know, like the biggest, let's say we've got 0.99, and then if we go plus 0.5, well, that's going to equal to 1.499, right? Like this. And then if we round this, well, this is then just going to round to 1, all right? So if we want to round up, we can always just plus 0.5. If we want to always round down, right, we can just minus 0.5. So that's a good little trick that you can learn from the mark schemes, to be honest. And then if we look here, this should be index 3. And this is to a whole number, so I think that's fine. Right, let's just go here again. Let's make this index 4, and then the choice of wood index, I think that, we call that wood choice. And then the price here. Right, so here this has to go to 2 decimal places. Right, let's set this to index 5. And then the calculation we want here, right, that's going to be the area. And then we want that multiplied by, I think we put it price. And here it's going to be, well, the index will be the wood choice. Because remember, for example, if they choose, wood type 2 or wood choice 2, well, that's going to be pine. And then, it's also going to be price index 2, right? So obviously 39.99. All right, so let's see how much more there is. So calculate the price of wood needed. I think we've done that. Okay, and well, then I think we just need to output. So we want the name, the choice of wood. So I guess this probably wants the wood name, and also the calculated price of the wood. Okay. Again, well, let me just paste this. Right, so I think if we go here, let's go output. The customer name, well, we can just say customer name. And in fact, maybe let's make it look a little bit nicer. So we'll go output, maybe like quote, or I don't know, like purchase or purchase quote or something. And I'm just going to add these hyphens, just for, just to kind of separate out each quote. Although of course in the exam you don't need to do this. Right, let's go. I'm also just going to kind of give it some headings, or give it some labels, I guess. Right, so customer name, just like this. Right, and then here, let's go output. We'll go wood type. And then here, rather than outputting the number, okay, let's output the actual name. So I think is that, it's going to be this wood type. And then here, this is going to be wood choice. All right, and then if we say this one, let's go price. And the price, basically it's going to be this. Now, if we wanted, we could store this in a variable. So let's actually do this. And I guess we also want to round this to 2 decimal places. Right, so I'm just going to copy this. And then let's say this is going to be a real, let's say, calc or calculated price. Right, and maybe we can do this here. Right, let's go calculated price, and then we'll just assign this that. And then we'll just paste this calculated price. And then we can also use that here as well. All right, so I think, as long as I've not done any mistakes, I think that should be okay. So let's just try and run this and see if it works. Right, so again, let's just go thread. Let's say we want, 0, let's try 10. And you see here we get this error message. It doesn't pop up here, that's just the website thing. But we see it does display here in the terminal. Okay, so that works. Right, let's just say we want 5, let's say we want, I don't know, maybe 6. Right, so that should be 30 meters, and let's say here we want pine. Well, let's try this, maybe bill. Let's try 3, let's try 4, and let's try oak for this case. And I think then we'll just stop it. Right, and let's see if this works. So it's saying, right, customer name Fred, I think that's fine. It's saying pine. Price is this. Probably that's correct, right? It's going to be, I think, 30 multiplied by 39.99. Then we have bill. Okay, we chose oak. And yeah, I mean, this seems to work. Now, let's just try this, and what we can do, in fact, yeah, maybe let's just make this 2, for example. I mean, so yeah, let's say there's only allowed to be 2 customers. So let's go thread again, let's go 5, let's go 5. This one, I will just use the same sort of data. Let's go 3, and then yeah, okay, so here it stops, right? So I think if we put that back to 100, you know, that's going to work. So I think for the code, you know, that's actually finished, and compared to the one yesterday, or you know, paper 21, right, in, you know, 2023 October, November, I think this one is actually a lot more simple. I mean, well, basically because it doesn't have that, you know, mod div, right, calculating the seat position. So yeah, I think now, you know, we can just add some comments to this. So let's say here, this repeat, this is kind of looping, yeah, looping for 100 customers. And I mean, here we can just say, yeah, maybe initializing, yeah, wood type, or I don't know, yeah, wood type names, right, and prices. And I guess, yeah, we can sort of put that together if we want. Yeah, or maybe not. Let's say, right, I mean, well, obviously, yeah, just initializing customer number to 0. Okay, sorry, not 0, right, to 1. I mean, on it, you know, I feel again this is quite self-explanatory, right? You know, we're just asking for the customer's name. We probably don't need to, ask that, or don't need to comment that. Okay, if we look at this one, let's say, yeah, loop until valid room dimensions entered, and let's say 1.5 to 10 meters. Right, this one, well, we can just say, yeah, loop until valid wood, I know, yeah, wood choice entered, and again, that's going to be 1 to 3. I mean, here, let's just say, yeah, calculate price and assign values to array. Yeah, arrays, and then I guess here, maybe just show quote. All right, and then we'll just say, right, increment customer for next, I don't know, yeah, for next customer, or for, yeah, next kind of quote. Alright guys, so I think, I mean, for this video then, that's everything. Now, hopefully this makes sense, because again, I think this one is a little bit easier. I would say probably the most difficult thing, I mean, well, as long as you know how to do, yeah, as long as you know how to do this, you know, just the sort of validation, okay, the range checks, you know, keep asking them for input until they enter, you know, sort of valid input. I think the actual tricky thing is probably this. So just remember that if you always want to round up, you can just add 0.5, right? If you always want to round down, well, just minus 0.5. But again, you know, like always, any questions, just ask in the comments, ask on Discord. I mean, even, you know, send me an email on the site. And yeah, hope to see you in the next video.